Democrats and Republicans agree that Florida ran an election last year that was safe and secure and efficient and a model for the rest of the nation. But now election supervisors across the state say our legislature is on the brink of passing changes that could cause some real problems the next time around. While they have a lot of concerns about the legislation, one of the biggest relates to the proposed new signature verification requirements. Here's the issue. Unless you registered to vote a long time ago, you likely signed your name on the voter registration form on an electronic pad. And under current law, when you vote by mail, they match your signature on the mail ballot with the one you likely signed on that pad. And if staff cannot match those signatures, they'll go back and look for other signatures you may have on file with the government and then try to match it from there. Now, under the proposed changes, staff could only use an electronic signature on a pad that was signed within the past 4 years. And if that pad signature exists, it becomes the only signature that election staff can use to match to the signature on the ballot. So people who may have scribbled their name may be out of luck. But the bigger issue here affecting millions is that if there is no signature within 4 years, staff can only use a quote-unquote wet signature on file, meaning pen to paper, which in many cases does not exist because millions of voters in the digital age did not register with pen and paper. And that means that millions of mail ballots could get kicked back in the next statewide election if these changes pass. And depending on when voters mail them in, they may or may not have time to resolve the issues and get their votes to count. And that brings us to our spotlight interview with the president of the Florida Supervisor of Elections, which represents the supervisors of elections in all of Florida's 67 counties. Well, Hillsborough Supervisor of Elections, Craig Latimer, thank you as always for joining us.
Absolutely.
If this legislation passes into law as it's currently written, how would this change the way that you verify signatures on mail-in ballots?
It would really limit the signatures that we're allowed to use because it keeps referring to this wet signature and then it defines it as a paper and pen. Most of the signatures we get anymore are electronic signatures, including if you vote in person, you're going to sign in on an electronic poll book. Plus, if you register to vote online, they're going to pull in your electronic signature from DHSMV. If you register at DHSMV, that's the signature we're going to get. So it would greatly limit the amount of signatures that we could use, and people may not have, the correct signature on file.
If you do presently have multiple signatures on file, you can then use multiple signatures to figure out if, in fact, the one on the mail ballot is legitimate. After these changes pass, if they pass, would you still have that same flexibility?
Absolutely not.
What changes?
Well, the 4-year window, number one, and the repeated wet signature. So, if all I've got is some electronic signatures, the way I read it, I'm only going to be able to use one of these that's over 4 years old. We have to go through training from a handwriting specialist for everybody that does signature verification. And that training specifically states that the more signatures you have, the better it is.
What does this legislation change with respect to the use of drop boxes?
So currently, in the first iteration of the bill, it said no drop boxes whatsoever. Now it's got drop boxes at your early vote sites, like we always have. But what it didn't do was it didn't allow us to have drop boxes at my 4 offices on Monday and Tuesday, or even before early voting. It literally, the legislation right now says you can only have drop boxes at early vote sites during early voting and my office during early voting, but then outside of early voting, there's no drop boxes.
So which drop boxes would you have to remove and what practices would you have to change if in fact this becomes law?
Well, the way it's written right now, after the Sunday of early voting, I wouldn't be able to accept ballots in any drop boxes at my office.
And how many people turn in ballots at your office?
A tremendous amount. We had over 150,000 people use drop boxes in 2020. And trying to make the voters jump through more hoops just to get a ballot in is not good. That's onerous on the voters. And I got to tell you, I haven't found one supervisor of election that's really in favor of the way this bill is written.
And that goes for both parties.
That is correct for both parties.
Hillsborough Supervisor of Elections, Craig Latimer, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you.